Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, what should I be eating after my workouts to help build muscle? So I believe there's a lot of misconceptions surrounding post-workout nutrition, and I blame the supplement companies for this. A lot of people will tell you that you need to have a post-workout shake immediately after your last set of a workout. Not true. A lot of people will tell you that you need to get a post-workout meal within an hour after your workout. Not true. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're feeding your body properly in a reasonable time period after your workout. Your body's not going to go into a catabolic state if you don't feed it within 2 hours or 3 hours after your last set. Okay. You're not going to lose any muscle if you don't have a post-workout shake. I haven't had a post-workout shake in over 20 years and don't think I've lost any muscle. Okay. This is stuff that was pumped by supplement companies to generate more income for their products. Okay. And there's no scientific data backing this. Okay. So when it comes to post-workout nutrition, my recommendation to all clients is to have a whole food meal. Okay. Now, what I mean by a whole food meal is something that contains complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and healthy fats. You want all three of those macronutrients. So that could look something like a chicken breast with brown rice and a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Okay. Or that could look like something like a piece of cod, a cod fillet, for example, with some quinoa, and then you could put on some macadamia nut oil, right? If you're someone who's a vegetarian, that could look something like, say, some egg whites with some whole eggs. And on top of that, you could throw in some sweet potatoes, right? So you can turn to a stir fry, throw some vegetables in there, right? So you just want to make sure that you're getting all three of those macronutrients in. Now, how much of each macronutrient? Well, again, that's going to depend on what your goal is. Are you trying to build muscle? Are you trying to lose fat? Are you training for a certain particular sport? Like you're trying to improve your overall performance in the gym. So depending on what your goal, that's going to be about the amount of macronutrients that you want of protein, fats, carbs. Okay. But your overall meal should contain all three of those macronutrients. Okay. So you don't need to worry about post-workout shakes. Okay. You don't need to worry about trying to get that meal within an hour after your workout. There's been times where I've worked out at 6 in the morning and I haven't had my post-workout meal till 10 in the morning. I feel fine. Okay. You just don't want it to go too long because what happens is if you let that window go too far, you're not fueling the muscles adequately. Okay. And if you're not doing that, then you're going to run into some issues. Then you could go into a catabolic state, but it doesn't just happen within an hour. So I'm fine with clients going 2 or 3 hours without eating, but at that part, you're really starting to push it. So just make sure you get in a meal within at least that 2 to 4 hour window after your workout. Make sure your meal consists of lean protein sources, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats, and that should be sufficient. Okay. You don't need post-workout shakes. You don't need to eat within an hour or 5 minutes after your workout. That's all bro science. It's all garbage pushed by the supplement companies. No scientific data backing those claims. Okay. So post-workout nutrition, healthy fats, complex carbs, lean protein from a whole food source meal. All right. Okay. Nick, due to my work schedule, I have to work out in the early evenings. After my workouts, I can't fall asleep though. Is there anything I can take or eat that will allow my body to fall asleep naturally? Healthy fats. I have the same issue whenever I have to work out in the evening. Like anything past 5 o'clock for me keeps me wired. If you're someone who is active and you do workouts at night, whether that be cardiovascular exercise or weight training or jujitsu, whatever you're doing, you'll notice that after that workout, you've got loads of energy, right? Your endorphins are high. Okay. So it's very hard to calm your body down. And that's why I recommend for my clients who train later on in the day or into the early evening to have meals that are high in healthy fats. Remember, I'm saying healthy fats, not trans fats, healthy fats. So that could look like something right before you go to sleep. Say you go to bed around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. you might want to have like a protein. You could have a protein shake. Okay, it doesn't have to be a post-workout shake, but it could be a protein shake. It could be something with like a whey isolate protein powder and throw in a tablespoon of either almond butter, cashew butter, or natural peanut butter. Okay, so then you have that blend of a lean protein and a healthy fat. What the healthy fats will do, they will allow your body, your serotonin levels, first of all, to go down, relax, and allow you any stimulants that you've had in you from the day, whether that be from the caffeine or the workout itself, because a lot of people like to do caffeine pre-workout, myself included, that will just allow your body to just relax and go down. It'll just give your brain time to shut down for the night. Okay. It does work. The problem with having carbs, and I'm not against having carbs at night, but the problem of having carbs too close to bedtime is that you risk spiking your insulin levels and your blood sugar levels, and that could disrupt your sleep and not allow you to get in a good REM sleep. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend having a whole bunch of carbs before you go to sleep, but I would recommend increasing your fats if you're someone who works out in the evening. So whenever I do work out in the evening, what I'll typically do, I'll typically just throw in, I don't really do shakes, but I'll do something like I might throw in some omega-3 eggs with obviously the egg whites from the eggs. And I might have like 4 or 5 of those before I go to sleep. And that really works well for me. Okay. So you just have to find a food that you enjoy and something that you can digest pretty easily, which again is why I recommend healthy fats. So omega-3 eggs, natural peanut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, avocados, extra virgin olive oil. So you want to make sure you're having something that has those healthy fats and combine it with a lean protein source. That should work. Okay. Okay, next question. Nick, I wanted to hire a personal trainer for the new year, but I didn't realize how expensive it is to work with a trainer. The gym I live by offers group fitness classes that are much more affordable. Do you think these classes are almost as effective as working with a personal trainer one-on-one? No, not even close. So you have to remember when you're working with an experienced, knowledgeable, and reputable personal trainer, you're getting his or her undivided attention if you're working with them in a one-on-one capacity. If you're working with that same trainer in a group class setting, regardless of how experienced that trainer is and how reputable and knowledgeable and all the great reviews he or she has on Google, that person is unable to give you their undivided attention because they've got another 7 or 8 people to attend to in that group class. So it's not their fault. But you're also paying less for a group class. So because you're paying less, you're also not going to get the same level of service. So you need to make sure that you're managing your expectations accordingly going into a group class, knowing that that instructor is not going to be able to correct your form and technique to the same degree that he or she would be able to do in a one-on-one setting. Okay. If you are someone who is new to the gym, and you really don't know what you're doing, you are making a huge mistake by joining a group class right away. I've told this to numerous clients over the years who've signed up to work with us and they want to join a group class. And the first question I ask, what's your level of fitness? How well versed are you when it comes to the gym? Do you know how to do a lat pull down? Do you know how to do a barbell back squat? Do you know how to do a barbell bench press? Do you know how to do a seated cable row? Do you know how to do a deadlift? And if the answer is no, then I advise these people not to come to a group class because they're not going to learn how to do these exercises correctly. Group classes, in my opinion, are for people who already know how to work out, but need that extra push. They need that accountability, right? They like that group class environment, right? They can not just be pushed by the trainer, but be pushed by others. Okay. So group classes have their place for sure. We do group classes, but you're not going to get that same level of service that you would get from working with a coach one-on-one. Don't forget too, when you're working with a coach one-on-one, that coach can design the workouts that they're giving you specifically for you. Or at least they should be designing it specifically for you and not giving you some generic copy and paste program that they give to the masses. Whenever I work with a client one-on-one, whether it be in the gym or online, my first question is, what's your goal? Because everyone has different goals. Not everyone has the same goal. Not everyone, believe it or not, not everyone goes to the gym because they want to lose weight. I work with a lot of people who say to me, Nick, I just need to make sure that I can keep up with my grandkids. Or I want to put on some muscle. I'm so lean that I need to put on muscle because maybe I run every day, but I don't do anything to help build muscle. So not everyone has the same goal. And you need to make sure as a trainer that you're customizing your program for each individual client. Okay. Based on their goal, their level of fitness, any physical limitations, previous injuries, current injuries that they may have, so that you're giving them the most safe and effective workout for them, specifically them. Where in a group class setting, you are getting that one size fits all program. So just be aware of that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you yourself are well versed when it comes to exercise terminology. You understand how to perform exercises in a certain manner. You don't have to be a perfectionist in the gym, but you should have some basic understanding of physiology and anatomy and understand what you're doing. So when the trainer's eyes are not on you, you're not going to get injured. Okay. So if you are new to the gym, my recommendation is to book at least 6 to 12 sessions with a trainer and then, and only then, graduate to a group class. Okay. That's what I advise all clients that join our company. And you know what? People, once they understand why that's important, they do it. They understand it costs more money, but they see the ROI. Remember, I've said this before, the best ROI you'll ever make on your health is working with an experienced, knowledgeable, reputable trainer that can help guide you along the way so that you're not going to get injured and you're not going to get frustrated when you don't see results because you're working with someone that can take you from point A to point B in the most efficient manner possible. So that's my recommendation. Don't join a group class if you're new to the gym. Work with a trainer one-on-one first. Okay, next question. Nick, what do you think about intra-workout powders and will they help with strength and endurance in the gym? Intra-workout powders are a marketing tool designed by the supplement companies, just like the post-workout shakes. No scientific data backing these claims. Any scientific data that you see is from the supplement companies themselves. Okay. In all my years of working out, I've never relied on an intra-workout powder. To me, that's so ridiculous. If your nutrition is in check and you've dialed in your diet, you shouldn't need to have all these powders. Okay. So if you're someone who works out at, let's say, 12 o'clock in the morning, you should have had your pre-workout meal, complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and you'll have your post-workout meal, which consists of lean proteins, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fats. During your workout, the only thing you need is water. That's it. And I even have some people that find it difficult to drink water throughout a workout because it makes them nauseous. So for those people, I just tell them just sip on water. Just take little sips. For other people like me, I chug water during my workouts because I feel like I need it and I feel it helps me because the more hydrated my muscles are, the stronger I feel in the gym. So intra-workout powders to me are complete garbage and waste of money. You do not need them. Okay. Save that money for food. That's where the money should go, always towards nutrition. It's like I tell every single person that works with me, I said, if you're on a budget, hell, even if you're not on a budget, you don't want to waste money. Your money should go towards the training. So whether that's working with a coach or in a group class, or at least in a good commercial gym, not a gym that's falling apart where the equipment's all broken. Okay. And your nutrition. Okay. So you want to make sure you're getting the best food sources. You want to make sure that you're getting the best vegetables, right? You don't want to be buying your groceries at Walmart. Okay? And then if you still have a little bit of money left over, then you can go into some supplementation. And when I talk about supplementation, I don't mean intra-workout powders. I mean like a whey isolate protein powder. Okay, that's a great supplement to use. Vitamins, minerals, vitamin D, vitamin C, omega 3s. All these things are, I call them supplements. They're not necessary, especially if you've got your diet dialed in, but they can help. Okay. So things like intra workouts, in my opinion, they're not necessary. They're a waste of money. And if you've dialed in your diet, you don't need them. Okay. Next question. Nick, I watched Blood and Guts with Dorion Yates and see that he preaches about high intensity, low volume workouts. I know you always talk about high volume workouts, but I want to know your thoughts on Dorion's type of training and if you would ever consider using it in your own training or clients' workouts. Okay, so for people who don't know, Dorion Yates, six-time Mr. Olympia from, I believe, 1992 to 1997, I believe that, or 1991. I can't remember the exact years, but he was a six-time Mr. Olympia during the 90s. And yeah, he was a huge advocate of high-intensity training, very low volume, as in maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 sets per exercise, with one set going to true failure. His workouts were never longer than 40 minutes. And I believe his training split was just 4 days in the gym. Now, obviously that worked for him, right? I mean, he won the Olympia 6 times. But if you followed Dorion's career, you know that he had to cut his career early due to injuries. I mean, he had to retire. He was forced into retirement after his sixth title, which in my opinion, he shouldn't have won because he had I think it was a torn tricep at that point. And yeah, I think he had a torn lat. And in his last Olympia, in my opinion, he should have placed second or third, not first. I do think the judges gave him first because he was a five-time reigning Olympia champion. Now, the reason Dorian got injured, and he might disagree with this, but was because of the way he trained. Okay, so that all-out intensity, that's only going to get you so far. You're only going to last so long. And the reason why I preach high volume and moderately heavy weights is because it's all about longevity. How long do you want to last in this game? So this is not a knock on Dorian Yates. In fact, Dorian Yates is one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time. I love his work ethic. I love the intensity that he put into the gym. I actually take some of his training style into my own workouts with the drop set that I do at the end of each exercise. I always throw in a drop set at the end because I want to take that set to true failure. But I also want to make sure that I've utilized high volume, high intensity, higher reps in order to burn out my muscles without tearing a muscle or straining a tendon or breaking something. Okay. So it's not that I think what Dorian did was wrong, but I think that if he had trained a little bit differently, he wouldn't have had to retire so early. And if you're going to compare professional bodybuilders, you look at someone like, say, Dexter Jackson. Dexter Jackson competed for 30 years and didn't have any serious injuries. I think in the last year he competed, he had a strained bicep, not a torn bicep, but a strained bicep. But at that point, he was 50 years old. So, I mean, when you think like that, I always think, okay, what's that guy doing? I want to do what he's doing because he's got longevity. He's not just in it for, 5 to 10 years and then that's it. He's done. He can't even train anymore. He's training in an intelligent manner. He's approaching every single workout methodically. Okay. Again, this is not a knock on Dorian Yates. I think he's a great Mr. Olympia. I think he was a great ambassador for the sport. But would I train like him? No. Okay. Do I think he could have gotten the same results if he had resorted to a high volume, lower intensity type of training format? It's hard to say, right? Because everyone's genetics are different. So maybe the way he trained worked for him, but it didn't give him longevity. So you got to remember that. Okay. So I'm not saying don't train like that, but you have to look at the results. And the end of the result was his career was cut short. Okay. So the reason I'm a huge advocate of high volume training is because with high volume training, you can last. And I look at myself now, going into my 40s now this year, I have never had a serious injury ever. Okay. So I really, really believe the reason I haven't had these injuries is because I'm a firm believer in listening to my body and practicing what I preach on a daily basis and making sure that my muscles are warmed up by including lots of sets, lots of different angles, higher repetitions within that 10 to 15 rep range, drop sets, supersets, circuit training, resting when I need to rest, but following that high volume type of training split, most importantly. That's kept me injury free. So, I mean, you do whatever you feel is best for your body, but I want to avoid injury at all costs, and I want my clients to avoid injury at all costs, which is why I'm a huge advocate of high volume, moderate intensity training. Okay. Nick, I need to lose at least 50 pounds. I can do weights, but I know that I need to start doing some cardio. The problem is that I have a bad knee and can't put too much weight on it. Both running and rowing seem to really bother it. I hate doing the stationary bike. So is there anything else I can do to help get my heart rate up so that I'm in my fat burning zone? Okay. So first of all, I want to just touch on the fat burning zone. Weight training will allow you to get into a fat burning zone. How? Well, if you're using one of those Apple Watches, no, you're not necessarily going to be in what they deem as your fat burning zone. But as I've talked about numerous times on this channel, is that the more muscle that you can build, the more calories you yourself are going to burn in a rested state. Okay, now I know I say this a lot, but the reason I say this a lot because it's so true. I personally don't do any cardio per se. My cardio, I've talked about this in the past, is walking to and from my gym. That's it. Okay. And I'm able to maintain a lean physique. And I attribute that to the weight training that I do because I have a lot of muscle. So my calories are burning more calories as I sit here. My muscles, sorry, are burning more calories as I sit here right now, as opposed to someone who doesn't lift weights at all. Okay. So you got to get that whole fat burning zone out of your terminology. Now, if you feel that you need to add in some additional cardiovascular exercises in order to burn more calories because you do feel the weight training is not enough, and you can't do something like running, for example, or in your case, rowing even, you want to look for something that's non-weight bearing. Now, non-weight bearing exercise could be something like the elliptical trainer. That's something that I used to use when I used to compete. As I get closer and closer to a show, I'd start doing 20, 30 minutes of cardio a day, and I would use the elliptical trainer. Not because I had problems with my knees, but because I didn't want to create problems with my knees, which anyone who's followed me for years knows that I'm really not a huge advocate of running. I believe running to be detrimental on the joints, especially the patella and the patella itself and the meniscus in the knee, your hip abductors. So I really don't feel it's a good exercise to do for your joints long term. So the elliptical is great because it's non-weight bearing. I was never a fan of the bike either. I found it boring, and also I found that it didn't really exert that much energy. So you weren't burning nearly the amount of calories that you would while you're standing up and doing an exercise. Now, if you do not have access to an elliptical trainer, then I would also recommend doing something like swimming. Swimming is one of the best cardiovascular exercises that you can do. I actually recently just started taking up swimming in my home gym here, and not because I feel I need the cardio, just because I just wanted to do something different for my body. I just wanted to create different movement, different planes and ranges of motion. So right now, I started with 20 laps in my pool downstairs. My goal is to build that up to 50 laps before the end of February. So now I have a goal. Okay, and again, that goal is not because I need to lose fat. I really don't have any fat on me. It's just because it's something different for my body, a new challenge for my body. Okay. So that's what I recommend to you is challenge your body in different planes and ranges of motion. So when it comes to cardiovascular exercise, the elliptical trainer is great and swimming is excellent. Okay. Because they're both non-weight bearing exercises. And not only are they not going to cause problems for your joints, but they'll actually help your joints. They'll preserve your joints. So that's my recommendation. And also with exercises like swimming, you're going to burn lots of calories because you are using resistance against the water. It's just non-weight bearing on your joints, but you're doing some two in one. You're doing cardiovascular and you're resisting against the water, right? You're pushing the water as you swim. So that's resistance. So it's like a two in one. So that to me is a great cardiovascular exercise to do. And try that out. You can join your local pool and do what I'm doing, start off with maybe 10 laps and then build yourself up to 15 laps and 20 laps and so on, right? But that's my recommendation. I would recommend staying away from running, which sounds like you're already doing. And rowing machine, I'm not against rowing machine, but if it's causing you issues, obviously don't do it. Stick to a non-weight bearing exercise, elliptical trainer, swimming, or for someone else who's listening to this, if you're okay with the stationary bike, but just be aware that you're not going to burn as many calories doing the stationary bike as you will with the other two. Okay. A few more questions. Okay. Nick, I keep putting on weight in my stomach, even though my diet is pretty clean. I eat lots of meat, rice, potatoes, eggs, etc. Should I go and get my thyroid checked or try something else with my diet? So this is a difficult question for me to answer because I don't work with you. So I actually don't know what your diet looks like. You say meat, rice, potatoes, and eggs, but to me, when someone says meat, that can mean many things. When I say meat, I want someone having a chicken breast, a turkey breast, extra lean ground turkey, extra lean ground beef. You could be having ribeye for all I know. You could be having pork tenderloin for all I know. So meat to me doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating clean. Okay. Also, what are you putting on that meat? Are you putting on sauces? Are you putting on like barbecue sauce? Are you putting on ketchup? Like people don't realize this, but condiments contain tons of calories, tons of sugar. So if you're just pouring that on, you could easily be adding an extra additional 200 calories and maybe 20, 25 grams of sugar. Okay. So you got to watch your condiments. Okay. When you say rice, are you having brown rice or are you having white rice? Because there's a difference. And I know a lot of the people out there disagree with me on this, but I'm a firm believer in using brown rice over white rice just for the simple reason that it does help stabilize blood sugar levels and insulin levels, whereas white rice does the complete opposite. You ever notice when you have white rice, you're actually hungry half an hour later? Brown rice doesn't do that due to the fiber content. Okay. I know people out there will complain about the arsenic, but again, I've talked about this in the past. You have to consume boatloads of brown rice to ever be worried about the amount of arsenic in the brown rice itself. So I wouldn't worry about that. Okay. So just because you're eating these foods doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating clean. Another thing you have to be careful of is portion size. Now, without a doubt, whenever I work with someone online on their nutritional plan and they are eating pretty clean, like I look at their diet, I'm like, wow, this person is actually eating pretty clean, but they're not practicing portion control. So when I ask them, I'm like, well, how much brown rice are you having? Like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't know? Like, measure it out and let me know. Like, put out a serving plate that you would normally have, and then measure how much rice you have on that plate. And I'm not kidding you. So many times people are doing like 1.5 or 2 cups of rice. They're doing 16 ounces of yams or sweet potatoes. They're doing 12 ounces of chicken. I'm like, oh my God, even if it's clean food, if your goal is to lose weight, you're going into a caloric surplus and you're going to put on weight. So you have to practice proper portion control. So even for myself, weighing in at 200 pounds now, I still practice proper portion control. My meals these days, I have 6 ounces of chicken, usually 1 cup of brown rice, and I'll throw in 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Like that's an example of a meal for me. That might not sound like a lot of food, but for me, it's filling. When I used to compete, I'd have to double that, right? But now that I'm smaller, I don't need that many calories. I don't want to be big anymore. So that's a good meal for me. And that leaves me feeling full for a long period of time. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're not just looking at the macronutrients, but more importantly, the micronutrients. Because if someone says to me, well, Nick, I eat a lot of chicken, I'm like, that could mean anything. Are you having a skinless chicken breast? Are you having a chicken breast from Kentucky Fried Chicken that's fried, right? Are you having chicken thighs, right? So just because you're having the meat doesn't necessarily mean that you're having the right part of the meat. Okay, so I would look into that. I recently had a client that was telling me, "Oh, I'm eating steak every day. I don't understand what's going on. I keep putting on weight." I'm like, "Well, are you eating flank steak? Are you eating iron steak?" And they're like, "Oh God, no, those taste gross." I'm like, "What are you eating?" His response, ribeye. I'm like, ribeye. The amount of calories in a ribeye, the amount of fat that's in a ribeye, and not all good fat, something you don't want. Okay. So whether your goal is to lose fat or just build muscle, you don't want to be having a ribeye. Okay. So these are things you have to pay attention to. And this is where it really helps to work with a knowledgeable coach that can help guide you along the way when it comes to dietary nutrition. And it's okay to not know everything about dietary nutrition. I myself am still learning these days about numerous things when it comes to dietary nutrition, but I do have a good grasp on what works and what doesn't if your goal is to lose fat and build muscle, sorry, or a combination of the two. Okay. So I would really look at your diet as a whole, look at the micronutrients of the food that you're eating. And if you don't know how to do that, work with a professional coach that can help guide you along the way because you're going to save yourself a lot of time, headache, and mistakes. It makes a huge difference in how you approach your training and how you approach your diet, how you're going to get the results with your health and physique. All right. Do we have two more questions? Okay. Nick, what do you think about black rice? And do you think it's a healthier option than both white and brown rice? I have nothing wrong, no problems at all with black rice. And actually, I should include black rice when I talk about complex carbohydrates because I do include black rice on a lot of my clients' nutritional plans. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's actually of all the rices, it's actually the highest in antioxidants. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's lower in arsenic than brown rice. So if you're someone who's on that arsenic path and like, oh, brown rice again, well, then you can switch to black rice. Way better than white rice. Mom, if you do follow me on Instagram or watch this show on a weekly basis, you know that I'm not a huge advocate of white rice. But black rice is definitely comparable to brown rice when it comes to fiber content. It's higher in antioxidants. So in my opinion, it's great. It's going to help regulate blood sugar levels, insulin levels as well. So I say have it. A lot of the only complaint I get with black rice, a lot of people just don't like the taste. I personally don't mind the taste myself. I've had black rice. I don't have it as much as I have brown rice just because it's not as widely available here. But I do have it on occasion if I want something different. But there's nothing wrong with it at all. So if you want to eat it, eat it. I wouldn't eat it daily, like anything. I wouldn't try to mix up the variation. Like I don't eat brown rice daily. I do recommend rotating your carbohydrate sources. So maybe have some yams one day, have sweet potatoes, have brown rice, have quinoa, have black rice, but rotate it just so you get different nutrients from different macronutrient sources. I say the same thing about proteins. You want to have chicken breasts one day, have turkey breasts another day, have beans, lentils, kidneys the next day. So you're constantly switching it up just to get different nutrients in. I think that's actually a good way to eat. It also allows you to have a little bit of variety with your diet as well. So, but yeah, I see nothing wrong with having black rice. So if you want to have it and you enjoy it, have it. All right. Last question. Yeah, last question. Here it is. Where is it? I just saw it. Okay. Nick, how do you work with clients online if you're not in the gym training them? Don't you need to be in the gym to make sure they are doing the workouts correctly? Okay. So most people that work with me on a training program online, have a good understanding how to do the exercises correctly already. Most people I work with online, if they're not competitors, and competitors, don't forget, most competitors, whether it be bodybuilding, men's physique, bikini, women's physique, fitness, whatever it is, they already know how to work out. What they might need, though, is a coach that can structure a program specifically for them. Because when you're competing, you're your own worst enemy. It's like you got beer goggles. You can't really assess your body properly. It's really hard. And I can tell you from someone who did compete, it was really hard for me to really look at my flaws and criticize myself accordingly. I would always over criticize myself, but I really couldn't distinguish between my strengths and my weaknesses. And that's why I had judges that could tell me where my strengths and my weaknesses were. So that feedback was crucial. It really helped. Working with a coach, especially in my earlier years, made a huge difference because that person could assess my physique. I'd send them photos, assess my physique, and say, okay, you need to work on this more. You need to cut back on this more, and it worked. I mean, in my case, I've always had strong legs, but a weak back. So the feedback from both the judges and my coach was spend more time focusing on your back, less time focusing on your legs. And I did, and it worked. Okay. Whereas for me, if I didn't have that feedback, I would have just gone to the gym and kept working my legs crazy and my back crazy, but I would have never advanced because I wasn't giving more attention to detail to my weaker areas. Okay. So this is where it helps working with a coach. And if you're not a competitor, it helps in the same sense as the people I work with online do know how to work out. They do know how to deadlift. They know how to squat. But when I look at their physique, I'm like, you don't need to deadlift or you don't need to squat as heavy as you're squatting. In fact, I want you to take the weight down because your legs are getting too big and they don't look proportioned to your waist or your lats or your delts. I want you to focus on more drop sets or supersets for your chest. Bring up that chest fullness. Okay. So whenever I work with someone online, I customize the program just like I customize their diet specifically for them on based on what I see and the feedback that they give me. If they feel like they're weak in a certain area on a certain exercise, I'll take that exercise out for a few weeks and put something else in. I had someone recently struggling with a flat barbell bench press. I said, no problem. We're going to take flat barbell bench press out for the next 6 weeks, maybe longer. And they thought it was crazy. They're like, what do you mean you're going to take that exercise out? I'm struggling with it. I'm like, we're going to take it out. We're going to put in a flat dumbbell press instead. We're going to switch up the piece of equipment you're using for a bit because I believe you built up too much scar tissue in your pecs, and that's why you can't increase your weight. Sure enough, after those 6 weeks, and in that case, I think we only did 4 weeks off, we go back to the bench press again, the weight's gone back up again. Sometimes we have to tweak the diet, sometimes we have to revise the program, but having that second set of eyes on you with photos and feedback helps because when you're in it yourself, it's really hard to make those changes. Okay. So that's how I work with people online. It's the same thing when you look at like, you take the Chicago Bulls, for example, the 1990s team that won 6 championships. At the end of the day, it was Jordan, Pippen, Rodman. Those guys were the ones sinking the baskets. Those guys were the ones winning the games. But who was the one coaching them to win those games? Phil Jackson, right? Players need coaches. Okay. Every championship team has always had a coach. Every professional bodybuilder these days has a coach. Okay. So you look at any professional athlete, they have a coach. So just because you yourself might know almost everything, or even if you do know everything, it doesn't hurt to have someone who's knowledgeable and experienced on your side to guide you because you might not know where to make that change because you're so focused on your game, you're so focused on your sport, you're so focused on your workout, or you're so focused just on the actual exercises themselves that you actually can't step out for a second and assess your physique or assess your performance accordingly. And that's where it really helps to have an experienced, knowledgeable coach on your side, in your corner to guide you. Okay. So that's how I work with people online. I don't need to work with people in the gym. I do work with people in the gym. I mean, less now than I did back 10 years ago, but I still work with people in the gym. But as I've talked about in the past, 60% of my business is now online and only 40% of it's in-house. So as I continue along with my training, in order to coach more people, I work with more people online because I can coach multiple people online. Whereas if I work with someone in-house, I can only work with one person at a time. And as I said, for the people who are new, they can really benefit from working with someone in person versus online. So people who work with me online are usually more experienced and well-versed in the gym. When it comes to dietary nutrition, I work with all levels. I've worked with numerous beginners. I work with people on their diets who actually don't even go to the gym. I have a lot of people that just say, I need help with my diet. And they're runners or they're doing some type of sport. They're soccer players, basketball players, hockey players, but they don't really go to the gym. That's fine. I'll still help them with their diet because, everyone at the end of the day, if they want to make a positive change with their dietary nutrition or their overall health, I'm here to help them. And that's my job. Okay. So whether it's online or in-house, I do both. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, January the 20th. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, to please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my in-house coaching business, as well as my online coaching business. I truly do appreciate all of the support and feedback. Thank you all once again, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.